Imagine for a moment that your life is not a random scatter of experiences, not a loose collection of accidents strung together by chance, but instead a carefully woven tapestry in which each thread has been placed with deliberate intention. Picture yourself walking along a path where every stone, every gust of wind, every unexpected encounter carries a message whispered from a hidden intelligence that surrounds you. To live as if every event is an invitation from the universe is to step into that vision. To see your days not as arbitrary movements, but as a grand conversation unfolding between you and something far greater, far more mysterious than the human mind alone can hold. This idea might sound like the echo of ancient mysticism, and in a way it is, yet it also touches something deeply practical, something that reshapes the way we notice and act in the world. Most people move through their days half asleep, caught in the net of habitual thinking, eyes focused on tasks, deadlines, and worries. In that state, life feels flat, predictable, even meaningless at times. But to treat every event as an invitation is to awaken to a different texture of reality, one in which the unexpected phone call, the stranger's glance, the song drifting from a passing car, all become part of an intricate dialogue. The universe in this frame is not silent. It is constantly speaking, if only we learn to listen. There is a paradox at the heart of this invitation. On one hand, to live this way requires humility, the acceptance that you do not fully understand the forces shaping your existence. On the other hand, it also requires boldness, the willingness to step into experiences with an open heart and to accept that meaning is not always revealed instantly. The child who finds a seashell on the beach may not understand why it feels significant. Yet years later, that same shell might serve as a symbol of resilience, reminding them of a time when the ocean itself seemed to reach out and gift them a fragment of eternity. Life's events are rarely neutral. They become meaningful in the way we choose to approach them. The metaphor of invitation is important here. An invitation is never a command. It does not force your hand. It beckons you. It says, "Come see, enter." When the universe extends such invitations, they may not be obvious. They may appear in the form of challenges, difficulties, or even heartbreak. Yet if approached as invitations, these moments become portals. A loss may invite you to discover depth within yourself you did not know existed. A disappointment may invite you to shift your path towards something richer, though the redirection may not feel kind in the moment. To live as if every event is an invitation is not to live in naive optimism, pretending everything is pleasant. Rather, it is to live with the profound trust that even the painful, the confusing, and the uncertain can carry hidden gifts if you dare to engage with them. Think of coincidences, those small ripples in the flow of time that make you pause. You think of an old friend, and moments later, they call. You open a book at random, and the line you read feels like it was written just for you. Skeptics might dismiss these as statistical inevitabilities, but to live with the mindset of invitation is to see them as winks from the cosmos, reminders that the surface of reality is thinner than we think, and that something intelligent moves beneath. The mystic John C. Lilly once imagined an entire office beyond time and space, a cosmic bureau responsible for orchestrating coincidences as subtle lessons. Whether or not such an office truly exists is beside the point. The real power lies in shifting your perception, in allowing yourself to see the ordinary as luminous with meaning. There's also a practical brilliance in this way of living. When you treat every event as an invitation, you naturally become more present. Presence sharpens the senses, awakens creativity, and softens the fear of uncertainty. Instead of resisting change, you lean into it, asking, "What is this moment asking of me? What doorway is opening here?" That mindset transforms anxiety into curiosity, obstacles into opportunities, and monotony into mystery. It is not a way of denying hardship, but of reframing it so that even difficulty can become a teacher. Imagine a world in which everyone lived this way. Arguments would no longer be seen only as conflicts, but as invitations to deeper understanding. Failures would be recognized as stepping stones rather than final judgments. Even silence, often overlooked, would be heard as an invitation to rest, to reflect, to connect with the rhythm of one's own breath. Life would shift from being a battlefield of random blows to a dialogue with an unseen partner, one whose ultimate aim is not to defeat you, but to awaken you. The introduction of this idea into your life is like opening a secret door. Behind it lies a world you already inhabit but have not fully noticed. A world in which the fabric of events shimmers with hidden significance. To walk through that door is to risk seeing differently, to risk becoming alive to patterns you once ignored. Some might call it magical thinking. Others might call it heightened awareness. The labels matter less than the experience itself. What matters is whether you are willing to pause to listen, to treat the unfolding of your life not as random noise, but as music, sometimes dissonant, sometimes harmonious, but always, somehow, directed toward growth. Living this way is both a discipline and a gift. It requires you to slow down, to pay attention, to resist the temptation to dismiss what you do not understand. It invites you to hold paradoxes gently. The world is both chaotic and ordered, both indifferent and deeply personal. To live as if every event is an invitation is to dwell in that paradox with grace. To cultivate the courage to believe that reality itself might be conspiring to reveal something to you. And so as we begin this exploration, let us consider this possibility. What if your life right now is a letter being written by the universe? Each event a word, each encounter a punctuation mark. What if nothing is wasted and everything, no matter how small or strange, is part of a sentence that only becomes clear when you step back and read with patience? To live as if every event is an invitation is to accept that you are always in dialogue, always in motion, always being called into deeper awareness. The question is not whether the invitations are arriving, they are, but whether you will notice, whether you will open them, and whether you will answer. At the center of this philosophy lies a shift in perception so profound that it alters the very way we walk through our days. To live as if every event is an invitation from the universe is not simply to adopt a new belief. It is to change the architecture of awareness itself. It is to move from a worldview where life is an indifferent mechanism of chance into a worldview where life is a living dialogue, a dynamic interplay between your consciousness and the patterns that surround you. And like all dialogues, this one contains rhythm, nuance, silence, humor, and paradox. The first theme that emerges is attention. Attention is the currency of this dialogue, the means by which invitations are noticed. Imagine that reality is a vast canvas filled with countless shapes, colors, and signals. Most people glance at it quickly and see only the broad strokes, tasks, routines, problems, pleasures. But when you bring deep attention, the painting changes. Small details leap into focus, and suddenly what looked like random brushstrokes begin to form patterns. Attention is the key that transforms accident into meaning, coincidence into synchronicity. Without attention, the invitations of the universe remain sealed envelopes scattered at your feet. With attention, they open into letters written directly to your soul. Another core theme is trust. Trust does not mean blind faith that everything will always turn out as you wish. Rather, it is the willingness to lean into the unknown with the belief that meaning will reveal itself in time. This trust allows you to see difficulties as opportunities for growth rather than punishments. Consider the way a sculptor strikes marble with a chisel. To the untrained eye, each strike looks like destruction, a fragment breaking away. But to the sculptor, the act is purposeful, each fracture necessary to reveal the hidden figure within. So too, the universe's invitations sometimes arrive as chisels, sharp and unwelcome at first glance, but shaping you into a form you could not become otherwise. Flowing alongside trust is the theme of dialogue itself. To live this way is to treat reality not as a monologue, but as a call and response. You act, and the world replies. The world acts, and you reply. Every choice you make becomes both a statement and a question, answered not in words, but in events, in symbols, in the choreography of circumstance. This makes life feel less like a random sequence and more like an improvisational dance in which your steps matter. Not because they control the entire song, but because they influence the way the song moves with you. The fourth guiding theme is symbolism. Invitations rarely arrive with explicit instructions. The universe does not hand you a neatly typed note saying, "This setback is here to teach you resilience." Instead, meaning often appears symbolically, through patterns, archetypes, or metaphors. Dreams speak this language as do myths, as do the strange repetitions of daily life. When the same symbol shows up repeatedly, a feather on your path, a particular phrase overheard again and again, it is as though reality is highlighting a passage in the book of your life. Learning to read these symbols is less about decoding them with logic than about sensing them with intuition. Equally important is the theme of paradox. The universe invites you through opposites, through contradictions that cannot be solved but only lived. Joy may contain sorrow, and sorrow may carry the seed of joy. Freedom may arise from limitation, and strength may emerge from vulnerability. If you demand that every event be consistent with your expectations, you will miss the subtle paradoxes that actually guide growth. To live an invitation is to hold paradox gently, to resist the urge to flatten life into certainty, and to instead dwell in the fertile tension of the in-between. Another pillar of this perspective is responsibility. To say that every event is an invitation is not to relinquish your agency, as though you are a puppet moved by invisible strings. On the contrary, it increases your responsibility. An invitation requires a response. You must choose whether to accept or decline, whether to step forward or retreat. If you treat reality as dialogue, then your choices are not trivial. They are the way you speak back to the cosmos. This makes even small actions luminous with significance, for each one carries the potential to shape the unfolding conversation. There's also the theme of presence and wonder. When you treat life as invitation, even the ordinary can shine. The steam curling from a cup of tea becomes a gesture of impermanence. The laughter of a child becomes a reminder of innocence. A sudden rainstorm becomes a reminder of nature's unpredictability. These are not monumental events, yet within this framework there are still invitations to pause, to reflect, to appreciate. The universe does not only speak through grand upheavals, it also whispers through small delights, encouraging you to stay awake in the moment you are in. Layered within all of these themes is a deeper recognition of interconnection. To see life this way is to realize that you are not isolated. You are part of a web in which every strand vibrates with meaning. The bird outside your window, the timing of a chance meeting, the rhythm of your own heartbeat, all are woven into the same fabric. This recognition dissolves the illusion of separation, reminding you that your life is not an island, but a thread in a larger design. In this light, every invitation is not just for you individually, but for you as part of the whole, urging you to step into greater harmony with the unfolding of existence. When we weave these themes together, attention, trust, dialogue, symbolism, paradox, responsibility, presence, and interconnection, we begin to glimpse the architecture of this way of living. It is not a rigid system with rules to memorize. It is more like a posture, a stance of openness toward the mystery of existence. It asks you to lean forward into the unknown with curiosity, to cultivate awareness as though your life were a sacred text, and to participate fully in the unfolding story. In essence, the core concept is simple yet endlessly profound. What happens in your life is not meaningless, nor is it fully under your control. It is an invitation, a doorway. To walk through it is to discover that life is not merely something happening to you. It is something happening with you. The universe, in this view, is not silent stone but responsive partner. And you are not just a passive observer, but an active participant in an eternal dialogue. If the first movement of this journey is to awaken to attention and trust, and the second is to understand the themes and architecture of this way of living, then the third is to step into the realm of story and symbol, where truth is not given directly but revealed through images that speak to the soul. Philosophy without story remains abstract, but when clothed in allegory it begins to breathe, and suddenly the invisible takes on shape, texture, and rhythm. To live as if every event is an invitation from the universe is, in essence, to live inside a myth, and myths are the language of the symbolic mind. Picture the story of a traveler who wanders into a forest. At first, the path is clear, but soon it vanishes into tangled roots and mist. The traveler begins to panic, feeling lost. Yet at that very moment, a bird alights on a branch and calls out. Unsure why, the traveler follows, and the bird leads him to a stream. The stream then reflects the sky in such a way that the traveler sees a direction forward. Was the bird a mere coincidence, or was it an emissary of something larger? In the logic of ordinary life, it is just an animal. But in the logic of invitation, the bird becomes a guide, the stream becomes a mirror, and the entire episode becomes a story about listening, trusting, and moving forward when clarity seems gone. These symbolic narratives echo through the great traditions of the world. In ancient myths, the hero often encounters events that appear random, but later reveal themselves as essential trials or signs. Odysseus, blown by storms across the sea, finds meaning not only in triumphs, but in delays and detours. The Buddha, seated beneath the Bodhi tree, faces not only visions of enlightenment, but also distractions and illusions, each one an invitation to remain steadfast. These stories endure not because they are about distant figures, but because they mirror the structure of our own lives. We too are travelers lost amidst, heroes blown off course, seekers tempted by illusion. Each event not simply an obstacle, but a coded invitation to grow. Consider also the story of coincidence, the subtle alignment of events that feel scripted. Imagine a woman who has been struggling with a difficult decision, torn between safety and change. One day, as she walks through the city, she notices a poster with a single word, leap. She smiles at the odd timing, but dismisses it. Hours later, at a cafe, she overhears a conversation at the next table. Someone says, "Sometimes you just have to leap." Later still, she opens a book, and the first line she reads is, "The leap is the beginning of flight." Skepticism may call this chance, but the symbolic mind recognizes a pattern, an orchestration. The universe has sent 3 invitations in a single day, urging her to listen. Symbolic narratives also reveal themselves in the way events repeat. Jung called this synchronicity, but myths show it as the looping structure of fate. A king ignores 3 warnings and falls. A villager dreams 3 times before setting out on a quest. The repetition signals not randomness, but insistence. When something repeats in your life, a mistake, a phrase, a symbol, it may not be a coincidence at all, but an invitation you have not yet accepted. The repetition grows louder until you listen, until you step through the doorway, being presented again and again. We can also imagine the universe as a great trickster, a playful intelligence that hides lessons in paradox. The trickster shows up in countless traditions. Loki in Norse tales, Coyote among native peoples, Hermes in Greek myth. Tricksters confuse, mislead, and disrupt, yet always in service of awakening. When your carefully laid plans fall apart, when life plays a joke at your expense, it may feel like cruelty, yet often in retrospect, you see that the disruption cleared a path you would never have chosen otherwise. The trickster's laughter is the laughter of a teacher disguised as chaos, offering an invitation through mischief. Another symbolic layer comes through dreams. Dreams dissolve the boundaries of logic and deliver messages in symbolic form. A dream of losing your shoes may not be about footwear at all, but about vulnerability or readiness, or the need to tread carefully. To treat dreams as invitations is to regard the night not as absence of consciousness, but as another classroom where the universe continues to whisper. Many who begin to live in this way notice that dreams and waking events start to echo one another, as though reality itself is a seamless tapestry woven across states of consciousness. There is also the grand narrative of the soul's journey, told in countless mythologies. The descent into darkness, the trial, the transformation, and the return. Every event in life, no matter how small, mirrors some part of this great cycle. A moment of confusion may echo the descent. A challenge may be the trial. A sudden realization may be the transformation. Returning to ordinary life after change is the return. The universe continually invites us into this archetypal cycle, not once but again and again, each time deepening our awareness. These symbolic stories remind us that events are not flat surfaces, but doors, and doors are meant to be opened. When you see the world symbolically, you do not need to force meaning onto every detail. Instead, you notice when patterns shimmer, when coincidences align, when symbols repeat. The symbolic mind is like a compass, guiding you through the forest of life by recognizing that the bird is not just a bird, the stream is not just water, the trickster is not just chaos. They are invitations, each one drawing you closer to the heart of the mystery. And perhaps the most profound symbolic narrative is the one in which the universe itself is seen as a lover. Every event then becomes a gesture of courtship, a flower blooming at your feet, a storm that tests your endurance, a silence that draws you inward. To live this way is to see life not as random mechanics, but as a romance, a cosmic love affair in which every detail is charged with intimacy. The invitation then is not only to grow, but to fall in love with existence itself, with the great unfolding that surrounds you. To speak of invitations from the universe in the language of myth and symbol is stirring. But sooner or later the question arises, how do we live this way in the concrete rhythm of daily life? How does this philosophy translate when you are caught in traffic, paying bills, navigating relationships, or facing the uncertainty of illness or loss? It is here in the weaving together of the cosmic and the practical that the true value of this perspective is revealed. The first integration is through attention in the ordinary. Each morning, as you wake, you can choose to see the day not as a list of tasks, but as a field of invitations. The sound of birds outside your window is no longer background noise, but a reminder of continuity and change. The water that flows over your hands as you wash is not just a hygienic ritual, but an invitation to cleanse and reset. Even the routine commute becomes different when you hold it as a dialogue. A delay in traffic may not only be frustration, but a moment to notice the way sunlight flickers on a building, or to recognize patience rising within you as a skill being honed. The invitations are not grandiose. They are subtle shifts in how presence transforms the mundane into meaningful. In relationships, the practice deepens further. Every argument, every moment of miscommunication, every surge of affection becomes an opportunity to see what is being offered. When someone criticizes you, the reflex may be to defend. But through the lens of invitation, you can ask, what is this teaching me about my pride, my vulnerability, my ability to listen? When someone surprises you with kindness, you can receive it not as random generosity, but as an invitation to trust intimacy, to lean closer, to soften. In this way, relationships become classrooms, not battlegrounds. And even the painful exchanges are not wasted, but turned into material for growth. The same applies in the realm of failure and success. Too often, people see failure as punishment and success as validation. But in the philosophy of invitation, both are simply teachers wearing different costumes. Failure may be an invitation to humility, to resilience, to redirection toward paths you would not have dared otherwise. Success may be an invitation to gratitude, to stewardship, to remembering that achievement is not the end of growth, but a moment within it. By reframing outcomes as invitations rather than verdicts, you free yourself from the tyranny of external labels and discover the freedom to learn in every circumstance. Practical integration also requires cultivating discernment. Not every event is a cosmic telegram with secret instructions. Sometimes a broken glass is just a broken glass. The challenge is to remain open without becoming superstitious or paranoid. Discernment grows by balancing intuition with groundedness, by listening to resonance. An invitation feels different from noise. It carries weight, repetition, a certain shimmer that catches your attention. With time, you learn to distinguish between the chatter of the mind and the whispers of the deeper order. This way of living also affects how you meet difficulty. Illness, grief, and uncertainty are unavoidable. To live as if every event is an invitation is not to deny pain, but to engage with it differently. Illness may invite you to slow down, to honor your body, to rely on others. Grief may invite you to discover the depths of love, to recognize the impermanence of all things, to awaken compassion for others who suffer. Uncertainty may invite you to rest and trust, to relinquish the illusion of control. These are not easy invitations, yet they may be the most transformative, shaping your character in ways no pleasure alone can. There is also the practical matter of choice. Every invitation requires a response, and your choices are the language of your reply. If you notice a pattern of opportunities pointing toward a new direction, will you accept or decline? If a challenge arises that calls you to courage, will you step forward or retreat? Choice makes this philosophy active rather than passive. It is not about waiting for the universe to dictate your life, but about participating in a co-creation where your will and the universe's invitations meet in dialogue, in the workplace or creative endeavors. This lens brings a sense of play and discovery. A project that stalls may be an invitation to innovate. A colleague who challenges you may be an invitation to refine your communication. A sudden spark of inspiration may be an invitation to risk bringing something new into the world. Creativity flourishes when you treat obstacles not as barriers, but as prompts, much like an artist who takes a blot of ink on paper and turns it into the first stroke of a masterpiece. Another real-world implication is the cultivation of gratitude and wonder. When you begin to notice the invitations around you, gratitude becomes almost inevitable. You see that life is not only striking you with randomness, but guiding you, teaching you, sometimes gently, sometimes with severity. Gratitude expands not only for the sweet moments, but for the bitter ones as well, because each carries its own message. From gratitude arises wonder, the ability to stand in awe of existence itself, to marvel that you are here at all, breathing, perceiving, participating in this great unfolding. Living in this way also fosters resilience. When you accept that every event carries an invitation, setbacks no longer break you in the same way. They may wound, yes, but beneath the wound lies curiosity. What is being offered here? What strength, what wisdom, what new path? Resilience grows from this orientation, because you are never only a victim of circumstance. You are always also a student, a participant, an answerer of invitations. On a societal level, imagine the shift if communities began to live with this mindset. Conflict between groups could be seen not only as division, but as an invitation to understand shadow and difference. Environmental crises could be seen as an invitation to reorient humanity's relationship with the earth. Economic and political upheavals could be recognized as invitations to build systems that serve life more deeply. Though such challenges are immense, the lens of invitation allows us to see them as meaningful opportunities rather than as senseless disasters. Ultimately, the practical integration of this philosophy is about posture. It is about holding yourself in the world as one who listens, who watches, who participates in dialogue. It is about refusing to collapse into cynicism or blind superstition, but instead walking the middle way, open, discerning, responsive. It is about seeing your life not as random collisions, but as the unfolding of a story in which you are both character and co-author. In this posture, everything shifts. The next time you spill your coffee, it may invite you to laugh at imperfection. The next time you miss a train, it may invite you to meet someone you would not have otherwise. The next time your heart breaks, it may invite you into a depth of compassion that will one day heal others. This is not fantasy, but a practice of perception, a training of the heart and mind to see the shimmering threads of meaning that weave through the fabric of daily existence. To live as if every event is an invitation from the universe is not a slogan to be repeated, nor a fleeting spiritual trend. It is an orientation of being, a way of walking through life that redefines everything you think you know. When you step into this vision, reality itself begins to shimmer differently. The same streets you have walked for years, the same people you have spoken with 1,000 times, the same setbacks that once frustrated you, all of them shift in tone, as if suddenly lit from within. You realize that life has never been silent. It has always been speaking. The only difference is that you are now listening. Think of how easily we dismiss the small details of existence. A delayed train, a stranger's glance, a sudden rainstorm that alters our plans. In the old way of seeing, these are annoyances or coincidences, dismissed as irrelevant noise. But in the awakened way, each is a phrase in the grand dialogue of reality. The train's delay may place you in the exact spot where you meet someone who changes your life. The stranger's glance may mirror something within yourself that you had not acknowledged. The rainstorm may interrupt your plans only to save you from a path that was never meant to be walked. Every event, however small, can be recast as a message, an opening, an invitation. To accept this truth is to reclaim authorship of your own life story. for too long. Many of us live as though life is happening to us, as if we are actors reading a script written by chance or by forces beyond our control. But when you see events as invitations, you shift from actor to co-writer. You are still shaped by circumstance, yes, but you also shape it in return. You begin to collaborate with the universe in real time, weaving meaning out of the threads that appear before you. This shift does not make life easier in the conventional sense. Challenges will still arrive. Loss will still break your heart. Uncertainty will still shadow your path. But the difference is this: suffering no longer feels meaningless. A broken relationship ceases to be just pain. It becomes an invitation to deeper self-understanding, to compassion, to new forms of love. A financial hardship ceases to be mere frustration. It becomes an invitation to creativity, to resilience, to seeing value beyond material wealth. Even illness can transform from a random misfortune into an invitation to slow down, to listen to the body, to discover the depths of the human spirit. This is not about spiritualizing everything into false positivity. It is not about denying the rawness of grief or the heaviness of struggle. It is about seeing that even within the raw and the heavy, there's a thread of invitation, a whisper asking you to grow, to transform, to awaken. Life does not ask you to pretend suffering is joy. It asks you to see that within suffering there can be seeds of awakening if you are willing to listen. Living this way also expands your capacity for wonder. Imagine walking outside and noticing a pattern in the way leaves scatter across the ground, or hearing a song on the radio whose lyrics answer a question you have silently carried, or realizing that a chance encounter echoes a dream you had the night before. These moments are not accidents. They are invitations to remember that the visible world is woven through with the invisible, that consciousness cosmos are intimately entangled. When you begin to treat such moments with reverence, the boundary between sacred and ordinary dissolves. Life itself becomes holy ground. The transformational call then is clear. Live awake. Cultivate a discipline of attention. Each morning, ask yourself not only what tasks await, but also what invitations might be hidden within them. Each evening, reflect on the day not as a list of accomplishments or failures, but as a dialogue. What did the universe invite you to notice, to release, to embrace? Did you answer? Did you ignore? Did you hesitate? There is no judgment here, only the gentle recognition that each day is another chance to listen more deeply, to answer more courageously. Living awake also means recognizing that your own actions are invitations to others. When you speak a kind word, when you extend forgiveness, when you create art, when you take a stand for truth, you are not only answering the universe, you are becoming its voice. You are offering invitations for others to awaken, to love, to act. In this sense, life is not only a conversation between you and the cosmos. It is a conversation we are all co-creating together. And so the call is not merely personal, but collective. Imagine a world in which more people live this way, seeing each event not as random noise, but as meaningful dialogue. Conflicts might soften into invitations to understand. Divisions might transform into invitations to unite. Crises might be seen not as the end, but as thresholds into new ways of living. The collective story of humanity would no longer be a tale of blind survival, but of conscious evolution. You may ask, is this not too idealistic? Perhaps, but history itself is shaped by those who dared to see meaning where others saw only chaos. Prophets, poets, scientists, mystics, revolutionaries, all of them, in their own way, accepted invitations that appeared before them and answered with courage. They treated life as alive, as responsive, as meaningful. And in doing so, they altered the trajectory of a world. Why should you be any different? The invitations may not ask you to change history on a grand scale, but they will ask you to change the history of your own heart, your own relationships, your own corner of the world. And that is no less significant. So here, at the threshold of this vision, the final question arises. Will you accept? Will you live as though every event is not random noise, but a carefully wrapped message, waiting to be opened? Will you allow coincidence to be a teacher, pain to be a sculptor, joy to be a guide, silence to be a companion? Will you, in short, answer the invitations of the universe with presence, humility, and courage? If you do, your life will not suddenly become easy, but it will become meaningful. You will walk through the same world, yet it will appear new, alive, shimmering with hidden significance. You will discover that you are not merely surviving, but participating, not merely enduring, but co-creating. And in this discovery, you will find a freedom deeper than control, a joy deeper than happiness, a peace deeper than certainty. The universe has already spoken. The invitations are already here. The only question that remains is whether you will answer.